Year 4, this is Mrs. Lesniewski, and today we're going to be looking at summarising some of the learning we've done about sound in the last couple of weeks in order to create a knowledge organiser. We're going to be looking at some of the key questions we've considered in our lesson so far: how are sounds made, how do musical instruments work, what makes sounds louder or quieter, how do we hear sounds, what makes sounds higher or lower, and how do we make sounds quieter. So a couple of these key questions are going to be things that we come back to that we've looked at already. I've included a few slides from previous lessons. So for this one we've got how is sound made. Sounds are made essentially when something vibrates. So we discussed in our class how the sound was created in each of these instruments. In the case of the stringed instruments, the strings were plucked or bowed or strummed, and that created a vibration, and that was what caused the sound. In a drum, the skin vibrated as soon as it was hit, and in a wind instrument such as a recorder, as soon as you blow into it, the column of air vibrates. If you remember, we did an experiment with some rice on the skin of the drum, and we put some rice on the drum to see the vibrations when we hit it. We also heard the sound, and if you remember, we hit the drum gently, we hit it medium, and we hit it hard, and we saw how the rice vibrated a small amount when we hit it gently, a medium amount when we hit it relatively medium, and then a large amount when we hit it hard. So think about how the vibrations link to the sound, link to the volume. The key thing to remember here is that the louder the sound, the bigger the vibration, and the smaller the sound, the smaller the vibration. The size of the vibration, if you remember, is called the amplitude. So quieter sounds have a smaller amplitude and louder sounds have a bigger amplitude. A key thing we thought about was how sound travels. The sound, as we know, can travel through solids, liquids and gases, and it travels as a wave, vibrating in the particles in the medium that it's travelling in. So if it's travelling in a solid, it passes easily from particle to particle because they're tightly packed together. So in our example with the drum, when we hit the drum skin vibrated, which made the air particles closest to the drum start to vibrate as well. The vibrations then passed to the next air particle, then the next, and then the next. And this carried on until the air particles closest to the ear vibrated, passing their vibrations into the ear. We also considered how we hear sounds. Once in your ear, the vibrations travel into the ear canal until they reach the eardrum, the pink item here in the diagram. The eardrum then passes the vibrations through the middle ear bone, the tiniest bones in the body, the hammer, the anvil and the stirrup. And then this goes into the inner ear, which is shaped like a snail and called the cochlea. And inside the cochlea there are thousands and thousands of tiny hair cells, and these cells change the vibrations into electrical signals that are then sent to the brain, and this is done through the hearing nerve. The brain tells you that you're hearing a sound and what that sound is. We've also looked at the pitch of a sound, and high and low are words that we use to describe pitch. The pitch of a sound is different to the amplitude, which is actually the volume. The amplitude measures how loud or quiet a sound is, and the pitch is a measure of how high or low a sound is. High sounds can be quiet or loud, and low sounds can be quiet or loud too. On a string instrument there are several ways to change the pitch of a sound. The tighter, thinner or shorter the string is, the higher pitch the sound will be, and the looser, thicker or longer the string is, the lower the sound will be. Faster vibrations then make that sound higher, and slower vibrations make a sound lower. The ways of changing the strings will change the vibrations, which in turn changes the pitch of a sound. On a percussion instrument, the instrument itself is what vibrates to cause a sound, and there are different ways of changing the pitch on these instruments. So decreasing the size of the object creates a higher sound, so for instance the keys on a xylophone or a glockenspiel, or the bars rather, and increasing it, having a longer key or bar, creates a lower sound. A thinner skin on a drum will create a higher pitched sound, and a thicker skin will make a lower pitched sound. In a drum, the tighter the skin, the higher the pitch will be. On a wind instrument, the column of air inside the instrument is what vibrates to cause a sound. Shortening the column of air will create a higher sound, and lengthening the column of air will create a lower sound. This can be done with a sliding mechanism, such as in a trombone, or using your fingers, as in the case of a recorder, where you cover up the holes to create a longer sound, a lower sound because of the longer air column. The length of the column of air can be changed by opening or closing holes in the side of a tube, such as in a recorder. So for your learning today, we're going to create a knowledge organiser to do with our learning so far. And these key questions are ones that I want you to really think about, especially in light of what we just revised in this little video. So, how sounds are made, how musical instruments work, louder and quieter, changing the pitch of sound, and how we actually hear sounds themselves. On this slide, and also in the resources section of the lesson, there's an example knowledge organiser that you can use to help you to create your own. I think for your knowledge organiser, some key vocabulary will be really useful, as well as key knowledge. You might want to include pictures and diagrams, and you can create it in any way you wish. You can present it using a PowerPoint, you can present it on the computer, you can draw it, it's entirely up to you. What I do want though is for you to refer back to those key questions we've just seen on the previous slide. It's entirely up to you how you produce it, and as I say, some of that key information is in the resources there for you. I've also added a little resource sheet in the materials section for this lesson, where you can look at a few key video clips that might be really useful. And finally, for a bit of a challenge, you can make a string telephone, and again I put a link to this in the materials section in the class page. Use the same material at each end, and if you're feeling really excited and you're enjoying this, you can make several string telephones. You could use plastic cups, paper cups, tin cans. Don't forget to ask an adult for help when creating a hole in the bottom of each can or cup though. If you could bring these into school when we're all back in a few days' time, next week, that would be absolutely wonderful. And we can investigate how string telephones work and how different materials work to create them. That would be wonderful. Enjoy creating your knowledge organisers Year 4. I cannot wait to see them. Take care and enjoy. Bye bye.